Hello and welcome. My name is Alonda Carter and I am the Recovering Hunbot. And this is season 1, episode 22 or 23 of Hey Hun, You Woke Up. I am inserting the audio version of a video because I think it's important to get this information out to a wider audience. So that's why I'm not sure if this is 22 or 23. So, that's just how it is. This podcast is brought to you on 10 different platforms, including Stitcher, iTunes, and Google. The video version is over on YouTube on my channel, which is the Recovering Hunbot. Today, I'm chatting with my friend Dave. Now, like me, he is an anti-MLM activist and a critic of multi-level marketing. And today, we are going to talk about the importance of activism within the anti-MLM community, about multi-level marketing, and all that sort of jazz. So join me and let's welcome Dave to the show. Now, before we get started, I did want to let you know of something that it's just really kind of percolating. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is a picture of downtown Houston on May 29th. People from the community came out to protest the death of George Floyd, and he was a native Houstonian, just like I am. I decided to donate my AdSense from my YouTube channel for the month of June to honor George Floyd. I reached out to the Yates High School Alumni Association. He went to Yates High School, in case you didn't know that, and I asked if they plan to create a placard to honor George. They really like the idea, so I will be collaborating with them, and I'm spreading the word to other content creators about this, and I hope that they will join me in this effort. I will keep you posted as I learn more. Hey, Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so appreciative of your time, and, I'm so grateful that you're my friend and that I met you through us both having a passion of speaking out against the structure of multi-level marketing. And so today, I guess, and technically is the third time for you to be on my show, since we did the first one was a two-parter.
You got cut off,
So, yeah.
Oh, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. It's always good to chat with you. I mean, you've been doing incredible stuff, and I really appreciate seeing all of this content. I mean, unlike for myself, I don't have any means of distributing information in such a public way. So I think it's amazing the stuff that you're able to put out every week. I can't keep up with it, but it's so valuable because I'm not the only person who's digesting it. There's thousands out there. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, you're welcome. And thank you. And thank you for doing the work that you do. And I think it's really great that we can, unite and play off of each other. I always appreciate it when you apprise me about something and then I start going down my rabbit hole. What can I say? It's like, I never know where I'm going to end up. I just start kind of trying, I just start. Basically, that's what I do is I start.
Yeah. No, and that's where you go. And when you're researching MLM stuff, you just kind of get fed down these questions of like, this doesn't make sense. Why is this system working the way it is? Or why is this person talking about this product? It doesn't match up. And you look at their LinkedIn account and you look at the school they went to and you're like, that name doesn't really seem all that representative. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to get into, but it's so useful to have people that you can bounce ideas off of, because when you go into those rabbit holes, you kind of want someone to kind of rescue you out of them.
Sometimes I feel like I need somebody to pull me out because they get so deep and twisted. It's like, oh my gosh, you're not expecting this offshoot, and there you go. I mean, right. And as we were discussing before I hit record, when I'm doing this, I try to get enough content so that I basically can weave that narrative so that it makes sense. And sometimes I think like, my gosh, I could go on and on and on because there's so much out there. And I have to sometimes rein myself back and go like, I've got to come to a stopping point. I've got to pick out some of the highlights that I find, I guess, problematic, which the whole thing is, but, I guess really kind of focus on a few things because there's no way to cover all of everything about every single one of these companies because there's too many of them and there's too many aspects related to them, in my opinion.
Certainly. And if you look at the history of them, so many of them are connected to one another. They've trained each other through different organizations. You have Amway, which broke off and created like distributors that created other organizations, whether it be World Financial Group or Market America. And then you have Mary Kay, which also broke off, and you had distributors take the lessons that they learned within those organizations and go into other organizations. So like when you follow those lines, you end up telling such a long story. And I think that you're doing a great job in terms of breaking it down into bite-sized chunks and allowing us to better understand some of the problems that we're experiencing with MLM. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And you yourself do some amazing work. And I think that's what's really so great is that all of us who are involved in this, we're all doing work to bring down the structure and also, I guess, shine a light, bring awareness to it. Because overall, like we were talking before, I hit record and I showed my little bottle cap. It's like what most people know about multi-level marketing can fit in this bottle cap because they just don't. They're ill-informed or uninformed, or they think they are informed when in fact it is much deeper and much more sinister than what they think.
Right. No, it's understandable because there's an entire dedicated system to coaching people to know just enough, right? You need to have an explanation for why this isn't an illegal pyramid scheme, or you need to have an explanation for why you're going and approaching your friends and trying to not only get them to buy a product, but you also kind of want to get them to the steps of potentially considering selling this product. So there is that entire incentive for them to start producing content that it is somewhat deceptive. And with each person that enters the system doing that, it's just creating a massive sort of imbalance, because you need people that are going to be there to help try and correct that balance. But then you still have a large majority of people that have a vested interest in trying to crush that idea that people are trying to sort of push others to look into the other information that's out there, look into the fact that, yes, this person is saying that this isn't an illegal pyramid scheme, but look more into the information that they aren't talking about. Like, look at the fact that when you recruit someone to this business, do they get to make a livable wage just on being part of that business, or do they need to then go and look for someone else to join that business as well? And if everyone who enters that business needs to go through that, does that not look like something that the blessing loom that went around earlier this year when the checks were coming out in the US, the
stimulus checks.
Stimulus, thank you. So it requires that extra push or extra sort of weight that some people are going to put on their shoulders, just because there is that entire system built around the idea that, like, we want to feed people enough information so it sort of comforts their insecurity. It makes them feel a little bit less worried about this kind of system.
Absolutely. And I guess this is my naivete, is that I was thinking when everything first started happening with the world, I'm like, well, you know what, with people losing their jobs, which is horrible. My husband hasn't been working. He does go back to work on Thursday, but the restaurant isn't going to be like full as what it was. So it's going to be different because it has impacted all of that. But anyway, right. I thought, well, you know what, with people not having what they normally have, and even if they get a stimulus check that they're going to have to stretch out, maybe they'll say no to these opportunities. And it really seems like that some of these companies really picked up steam. And it goes back to people having that desire because they're scared. They don't know what's going on. They don't know when this stuff is going to end. Their job may potentially be gone permanently, or it could be gone temporarily. And that temporarily could be, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, 3 months. We don't know. We don't have any dates. And that is, you're just like I was telling you earlier, we're living in this pressure cooker. And so I can understand why if somebody says like, oh, well, you can make money from your phone, that's all you need. Look at what I've done. But what the person who is saying, look what I've done 9 times out of 10, in my opinion, I'm just pulling out a number, is they're not living the lifestyle they're projecting. But it's all that fantasy, is that dream that you can have this laptop lifestyle. And that person on the receiving end who has lost their job, who's maybe their husband has lost their job, they're worried about feeding their kids, and they might go like, you know what, I'll spend that $99, I'll invest that $99. Oh, I have to keep buying stuff each month. Well, I'll do that because I'm going to be able to earn money, like that person who just told me what a great opportunity it is.
Yeah. No, just trying to sort of take a step back. Like for myself, I want to be able to find the data that's out there with the best means that I have possible. I can't go into the company and say, hey, can you tell me how many distributors you signed up in March? Because they're not going to tell me that. So I need to use any sort of resource I have at my disposal in order to try to get at that information. So that includes like going on Twitter and being able to see like, has there been a rise in the number of people commenting about a given company? Or is there celebration around the idea that like, oh, this many people have signed up? Or can I find a rise in the number of people going and searching for a given company on Google? Is there any indication as to whether or not people are signing up? Of course, all of these are imperfect. Like for the instance with Google, people might just be hearing more about this company. There might be no additional signups happening, and maybe people are realizing, hey, like I'm not going to do this, but I'll Google it anyway and see what's there. So it's part of what I'm doing in terms of my activism is trying to give people a sense of the numbers. What is out there? How, specifically when it comes to the current situation, how is that affecting the MLM companies for what we assume to be a positive sort of bump in the number of distributors, and how can I represent that so it serves as a warning for people? Because I'm seeing companies, and I'll name one just because it's publicly available information, but I think there's reason to be skeptical of what they're doing. But for instance, with Arbonne, Arbonne has recently adjusted their compensation plan in terms of the volume you need in order to rank up. They've lowered the requirements for people that are consultants trying to upgrade to district manager, and then from district manager to area manager. Those have been lowered. You don't need 3 months in order to maintain a certain volume in order to get to district manager. You only need the 1 month. And there's a reason for that. And I don't imagine it's just because the company wants to be overly generous during this period of time, right? It's far more likely that the thousands of people that they probably had add to this business that have no real training or investment into the business, they want to be able to like sink their claws into them. But this is my opinion. It's not necessarily, no one told me from the company that this is what they're doing. This is just purely what it looks like to me in terms of all of the other tactics that are used within these systems in order to incentivize people to remain. But they want to sink an investment out of these people to say that, hey, we are a company that believes in rewards. We want to give you this benefit. If you can get enough people by the end of this month to purchase this amount of product, which has typically been through signups, because people aren't going out and buying a bunch of skincare products right now. It's not what you're spending your money on, but you'll spend your money on a new startup kit for your business that you will maybe sell later to someone, but most likely just store in your cupboard. You can see Instagram pictures of people doing this and just filling up their households. It's not the garage filling program that you had with in the past. I think that's pretty much phased out across most MLM companies. But you do have people buying on a regular basis these largely easily consumptive products that you can get rid of within a month's time if you're using it, and just continuously doing this on an ongoing basis. So within Arbonne, you see this kind of situation with the current moment that we're in, and they want to leverage the fact that they have this huge influx of new distributors that they want to make sure get committed to the program, right? Even though they can't go to these large events, or that they don't really have any kind of party sensation that goes around with trying to build that community around them, right? Instead, you have these online interactions that feel a little bit less real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll share with you some things that I have that's come into my bubble about Beachbody, which is interesting because now there are these virtual workouts within teams. And so you go in and then you see the other people and you're all doing the same program. So it kind of like builds that community. And I've also seen a rise of like announcing new coaches or announcing like someone who got to Emerald, which I think it'll be interesting the next time the income disclosure statement comes out, because I did do a recent video on comparing 2018 to 2019, and it was like 2017 to 2018, and looked at all that, and it's worse. I mean, you're making less money now than you were a year ago. But it will be interesting to see, like, will there be a tick up in people who joined? Will there be a tick up in people who reached Emerald, which normally it's like not that many can even reach that first rank. But because of this and because of these tactics, because Beachbody has been really pushing also a 14-day trial of Beachbody on demand, it's like, will that make a difference and give the perception that look how successful we are, and look, this is why you should do it because everybody else is?
No, it's concerning because it's not just happening in Beachbody and it's not just happening in Arbonne. The Direct Selling Association was just sort of announcing in the UK, they were announcing some of the numbers for, I think it was Avon, Body Shop at Home, which Body Shop at Home, I think they're starting their North American chapter up again. I believe that they originally had a direct selling business in Canada and the US, and I think they shut it down after less than productive progress with it. People weren't signing up at the numbers that they had wanted, right? I think it was too well known of a brand for people just to go to the shop and buy. But I guess in the current situation, and I don't think that they're necessarily taking advantage of it, because it would have been too recent for them to have made the decision and to unroll like all the business paperwork that needs to be done in order to operate something like this. But they were releasing a bunch of information. I think they're starting in tomorrow or very, very start of June that they're going to reopen their direct selling branch. But these companies, they were reporting like huge increases in the number of sales that they've done, like the revenue that they've drawn in. And the Direct Selling Association president in the UK was commenting on the fact that even though much of this has sort of been attributed to the rise in the number of distributors that have joined, they don't foresee it being a problem after the crisis. Like they see it as being able to sustain these revenues. And it's interesting that she's concerned about this happening, right? It seems that she's at least knowledgeable about the fact that many of these people that entered this business now out of desperation are probably going to realize that, hey, like I'm not actually going to make much with this. Like I'm going to need a crisis like this to keep happening in order for people to be entering this business in the way that I entered now.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen, Right.
So we went through this phase in the current crisis of well, the year started and it's 2020 and people might be looking for new ventures. So you had a little bit of a rise maybe in Q1, but then in March when all this happened, I think the first little bit, it's shock, right? People aren't going to really like, oh, what can I do right now, right? You just kind of wait and you're sort of anticipating like, is this going to take 2 months? Is this going to take a week? And you kind of sit back, and as the weeks go on, then you start considering, okay, well, how can I start earning money while I'm at home? And that's when people started looking for like work for home opportunities. And you can see in the Google metrics, like there was this huge rise in work for home opportunities around end of March, early April. But I didn't see the same increase in MLMs. I saw an increase in MLMs about 3 weeks after that. So towards the end of April, early May. And I imagine that's because people looked at other opportunities first and then saw, like, you get sort of exposed to this sort of influx of posts on Instagram, right? These companies are starting to sort of get their sort of publicity out there in terms of, like, the upline saying, like, here, this is how you can coach people in order to be interested in this business. And then with the rise of that, you had the FTC sending out the letters saying that you cannot speak of this moment in your recruitment efforts, right? So you now have this phase of trying to crack down on the industry in terms of regulation. And I think what we need to be ready for next as activists within the anti-MLM space is trying to make sure that we have information there for the people that signed up during this time and are sort of considering, like, do I stick it out for another 3 months and see what goes on, or is it best for me to get out now? And I think, like, the more content we can have out there in terms of, like, sunk cost fallacy, the sort of ongoing commitment that's going to be expected of you to continue to buy this product, right? Even though, like, they're the most susceptible to information that maybe this isn't the life-changing product that you've been sold on, because they haven't gone to all of these recruitment seminars. They haven't seen the product demonstration live in action in front of them, right? They don't have that woman who's not on camera on a computer telling them that this changed my entire face, right? I had this experience before and now I have this one. So I'm hopeful that within the next 3, 4, 5 months, whatever it's going to be, that like, we as a community within the MLM space can kind of be there for those people that that aren't really going to know what's going on, because perhaps they knew about MLMs a little bit before, but they didn't know about this one, right? And it's been explained out of them. Like, they had the sort of whole spiel on the fact that, like, hey, we're not really an MLM, or we're very different than all those other companies, so you can trust us.
They all are very different, so they claim. I mean, that's
Yes.
a mantra. We're not that. Oh, we're different. We have the best compensation plan, blah, blah, blah. I mean, just a bunch of little sock puppets,
Yeah.
spouting this stuff off. And, I do agree with you. We do need that content. And you brought up the sunken cost fallacy, which I think is important to talk about, because it seems to me there's a marriage of the sunken cost fallacy and cognitive dissonance that, comes together. And once both of those are united within somebody mentally, it's just like, you can't, like, just walk away from what you have been doing because it's so ingrained in you. Can you speak more about the sunken cost fallacy?
Sure. So sunk cost fallacy is the concept that once you've invested even just a little bit into a program or an opportunity or anything that you have sort of made the decision to buy, made the decision to have an exchange with someone else, right? You're going to continue to proceed with that relationship, even though it doesn't seem to bear the fruit that you might have expected in the first place, right? Because you have the anticipation that if I don't continue doing this, it means starting from scratch on something else. And that's not really something that I want to do. So I've kicked the can down the road a few steps. Why don't I keep kicking it down the road and see where it takes me? But the reality of this is that we constantly find ourselves in situations as humans of putting up the guise that this is going to turn out, right? Even though we're getting tons of signals showing us that, hey, this is never going to give you anything that you want from this. So it's hard. And even if you know about it, you're still going to commit it. Like, I mean, I studied economics. They showed it to me when I was in grade 11 high school, and I was reading an economics book, right? But I've still made poor decisions that I've invested in, whether it be relationships that you've had with people, or even, like, I remember a video game system that I didn't enjoy, but because I had bought it and, like, something else comes out, then why don't I just, it's boring now, but maybe if I buy this other game, it'll make it more interesting. But never really had that kind of rewarding experience from it. I was just spending more money on something that I still wasn't enjoying.
You know, we're all human beings, so we are going to continue to make mistakes, even when we're aware of this stuff, and even though that people are aware of like how sinister MLMs are, but they might join something else that doesn't appear to be that. And I'm going to just dovetail into, there are some people in this space that offer coaching opportunities, some sort of coaching, business coaching, if you will, where they bring people in under the guise that, oh, you can create your own online business. And it goes into that sunken cost fallacy. Like maybe the first thing that they offer is a free webinar. And maybe from that, the next step on the ladder is going to be something like, maybe it's a low cost course, and I'm just going to make up a number. It's $49, it's $99, or maybe it's a mastermind group, and maybe there is a monthly cost for that. But then there's going to be the next thing and the next thing. And because you think you know the people or person that introduced you into all of this and they appear to be successful, well, because I fell to this with Branding University. I've talked about that some, and I now see what Mark is doing in his Laboom squad. And he also, I don't know if I've told you this, but there's a website called MLMgods.com. And that looks like what he's doing is selling space to people within different MLMs so that other people can go to that website and like look up a rep that belongs to a particular MLM. But I don't think anybody is using that website, but it certainly is a good, revenue producer for him. That's what I suspect just by looking at it. That's my interpretation of what I have seen. I'm like, interesting. So if you buy into his system and then he offers the next thing and you're thinking, well, I learned a little bit here. I haven't really generated anything, but I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on kicking that can. And I think it's very interesting because there's something that happened to me with that particular individual where I like woke up and I'm like, wow, there's something off here. And as soon as I spoke up, just like an MLM, attacked, and people can't see what's going on. And I think now he has been in 4 different MLMs in the past couple of years. It looks like he brings in a lot of people, makes money, doesn't support them, and they think they're going to learn from a leader, and then cuts and runs and goes somewhere else and does the same thing again and again and again, which to me is just very slimy to see that behavior.
Yeah, it's the interaction. So in that example that you just gave, it's the interaction between sunk cost fallacy. So these people have invested money into this person. There's someone that I'm paying, so I should believe them, right? And then you have the cognitive dissonance of like, well, I wouldn't be messing over someone, right? I wouldn't trust someone with all this time that I've invested into it to scam other people, right? So this person who's coming to me and telling me something is wrong, well, that doesn't make any sense. That shouldn't be happening. I wouldn't be doing this if I am a good person. I think of myself as a good person, right? And it's the interaction between those two that don't just create problems in MLM, but it seems like MLM is the perfect concoction for them to mix together and create such a vile result that you don't necessarily see just by looking at one example of it, right? You need to sort of zoom out, see the whole picture, and realize like, wow, when you talk about 120 million people around the world that are all sort of affected by this system, and I think that's some perspective that I want to offer. I was in Iraq the last time I was talking to you. I'm in Taiwan now. Fortunately, given my situation and the current situation, I'm very safe. But in that same moment, like the whole world has been impacted by this system, and it works everywhere. It's not just something special that's happening within America. It's not just something that's remote to North America, right? You have your Latinx communities within America that are affected by these, and you try to invade these diverse groups, and it's so effective in doing so because we are all humans. We are all affected by sunk cost fallacy and cognitive dissonance. And there's a host of other problems that are being exploited within this system. But I can't help but feel that those are two of the compelling reasons why people just get so lost in these types of companies.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And on the example that I gave you, it's interesting to me and horrific at the same time because, if we travel back in time with how the Amway, the top diamond Amway distributors started creating their little, like, oh, buy books from me, buy this, all of those things, and then sprung off like Worldwide Dream Builders and all these other things along the way. It's not just MLM. It can be some of these high-ranking people that will create their own things, because I've also seen that with a Nagic, and I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different organizations that look like, oh, I'm going to help you create a business, but the entire pathway is to join a Nagic. Just like with these other ones with Amway. You don't know you're going to need to buy Amway, but eventually that's going to slip in. And with this Mark guy, you don't know that you're going to be offered an MLM, even though with him, it's not one. It's like because he's cutting and running and joining different ones and getting money and then leaving. But at some point, it's going to be like, oh, join my team. I just find it very interesting, I guess the social scientist in me, to see that type of pathway is created again and again and again and again.
Yeah. No, it shows you that these people, they don't need advanced degrees and anything, right? They just need to sit back at a coffee shop and watch how people are interacting with one another, and you kind of pick up on these things if you're looking for it. But for many of them, they've learned many of the skills that they need from their past experiences in other MLMs to sort of realize that, hey, I mean, if this is all it is, why don't I just take this and create my own sort of offshoot? Or why don't I take this and create my own entire MLM? And yeah, I imagine it's not really, we're not going to be able to get ahead of that problem. Like it's going to be something that continues to arise. And this brings up a question for you. Many people, because my main focus isn't on the people that are just joining. I think that there's a sense of compassion that you need to show those people that are just getting involved, and you understand that like they're part of that churn. Like they're the reason why the business continues to be able to exist and sort of operate under this guise that like, hey, it's just all about product. We just are selling products to people that want our product, which this fabricated demand that happens within MLM, in the sense that like if you sign up, you can make this ongoing passive income or residual income every month, and it's going to feed you into retirement much earlier than you could ever imagine. These people are believing that, and eventually they will probably fall out of the business. But when you start addressing or confronting the people that are towards the top, many of them sort of come back and push back with the defense of like, hey, this is possible anywhere, right? You see scams in every business. Why aren't you going after those people? Is there a way that you've sort of helped to position yourself and help frame the situation for them so they understand that like, no, this is something very different?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Is it about like, why am I focused on multi-level marketing and going and focusing on that structure and excuse me, and how I view it as being problematic versus other things that are problematic out in the world? Is that what you're asking?
It's part of that, but it's more so being fed into this idea that they seem to think that, oh, well, there's this equal distribution of scams across all companies, right? So why are you focused on MLM? And my main point is that, well, it's not an equal distribution across all industries, I would say. Like there are certain compensation structures, and there's certain pathways towards education that might sort of feed one given industry or one operation of a business, there might be more scams happening within that sector than, say, others. I would argue that MLM tends to have a higher concentration of that for reasons that I'm wondering, like, do you have an explanation in that sense of saying and explaining why it's more prevalent here?
No, I mean, I really, it's just it's my passion because of
Yeah.
my own personal experience, and I have not been confronted, well, why aren't you going after these other things? Because there are other things that I look at and I'm thinking, well, that's interesting, especially like some of these like fake gurus that are out there, which I would attribute these people creating these other systems that I mentioned. They kind of fall under that umbrella of as a fake guru, a Dan Locke kind of person, even though they may not be as well known as him, but they're drawing people in through a Facebook ad, an Instagram ad, all to go to this free webinar or whatnot, or in some way. And to me, I guess it's, well, the fake gurus, when you look at them, and I know, like I said, CoffeeZilla and also Mike Winnett, he's done a lot of stuff on this.
Yes.
They do something that's very similar to multi-level marketing. It overlaps very much so. And those two sectors are also like kissing cousins too, because when you're in multi-level marketing, all those fake gurus, because you're trying to crack the nut and figure out how do you do this business, you may get some of those things because they're recommended to you. For instance, you may get some of, and I have it right here. And the other weekend when I was talking to Chris Shelton, I pulled it out in my, yeah, okay. See, I have Grant Cardone's Millionaire booklet because, it was like, oh, he knows all about sales. Maybe if I follow him. So going back to your question, I don't have like a scripted answer as to why I focus on this and why I see it more problematic. I'm going to copy and paste it. Hey, hon. I really haven't thought of it in that way. It's really, I guess it's just because it's closer to me from my experience. And then as I keep on doing it, it's like I'm like mesmerized by the different types of multi-level marketing companies, because it's like, my gosh, you could have one, I don't know, for a pen. I mean, it doesn't matter what the product is at all. And literally, it's like anything can be a product. But I'm always like, oh my God, I didn't know. There's one for that. Are you kidding me? They've left like no stone unturned. And then I think they start, because I've seen some things like on apps that I'm like, hey, is it MLM or is it Ponzi scheme? And, it all starts kind of getting all twisted together. And that's where I go to the analogy of like a big old ball of yarn, and you're trying to pull out each thread and look at each color, but they're so interconnected with that space of the fake guru, with multi-level marketing, with these weird things that they're saying they're affiliates, but it's not really true affiliate marketing, but it's kind of like somewhere in between fake guru and MLM and maybe Ponzi scheme. I don't even know how to do a Venn diagram with all that. Right. I mean, it's just it's just messy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No. It's fine. I think it is complicated, and it's there are answers for that, and it's going to be different for each person. For me, the key problem kind of answers the question, at least my understanding of it, as the key difference between, say, those fake guru systems and MLM. They're slightly different in the sense that the people who sign up for those fake guru courses, they're not necessarily going to benefit directly from recruiting other people into those systems, right? There's no sort of contract that necessarily specifies, like, if you enroll 10 other people and they enroll 10 other people, and you're going to continue to receive this residual income from them. Whereas like MLM, like that is part of the system. It's defined within the contract, and you have that sort of once I enter from day one and I start understanding more of this system, I realize that, like, hey, I got to go out and find more and more people.
But those fake gurus, it's more like a uni level, okay? Because you can infinitely have as many people come, and you have an affiliate link for, Branding University, because I did that. And, and you can just invite everyone. It's a uni level type thing. You don't have all these other people where it's rising up, but you can keep doing it forever. So I think that it's very closely related. It looks slightly different, because the same thing with MLM is like, even though it may be going down, it's still that infinite type thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think, yeah, I'm not saying it's not a problem. Anything that I've read about these fake guru systems, they rub me the wrong way. I think some of the issues that we see arise within MLM, I believe is a consequence of the fact that it's not unilevel. It has many tiers of benefits that accrue to those who had entered initially. So each layer of that business, it's not just like income that's coming in, but it's a slight twist on the truth that just keeps happening all the way down that organization, to the point where the person who's just entering the business and started getting this information, there's now this whole team of people that have twisted the truth just a little bit, so it weighs on reality so much. And I don't think that that's necessarily happening within fake guru systems. They're
It really
just taking.
It is, though.
Okay.
It really does, because I mean, they get involved in these like Facebook groups and stuff, and this person, it is like their cult leader that they look up to, and they will break off into other like masterminds and stuff together. So it's all feeding in a very similar manner. And
Okay.
and people who have been doing it longer, because they're going to see these people who are successful at it, and it's going to be very few, and it might even be plants. And so go on.
So if those systems were happening, so if you take an Anagic out of the picture, are the people who were trained under someone else, is that original person still getting the rewards from that break off sort of
From an
thing?
Anagic?
Not from an Anagic. No.
Okay. Oh, from the affiliate system.
They have
Yes.
the formal structure. Like Anagic will keep the formal structure, so the person who originally coached that new coach on how to sort of start their own guru business, through Anagic, they will get the rewards, because they're going to start building a larger downline, and that will help accrue for that person who's within Anagic. But I'm wondering, if Anagic isn't there, does that top person still get the rewards from that?
Yes, they do, because it's the affiliate system. Because like that top person who's offering it, you come in and you spend, I don't know, say $149. I mean, the amount of money doesn't matter. So you are paying that to join that. And if you did not join it through the direct person at the top as one of their affiliates, the person at the top is still getting a portion of that. That affiliate is getting a portion of it. And then you are going to have an opportunity to be an affiliate too. And there's not going to be a portion that's going to go up to the person that signed you. The portion that you have is going to go up to the top. So it goes back to that whole unilevel type system. But the real goal is not only to get you into that, it's to get you into Anagic. And then there is one group that I did find out that they are offering now a second affiliate opportunity, that once you reach the rank of 5A, it is mandated. It's now mandatory that you join this other affiliate system of somebody else they brought in. So now that guy that they brought in is going to make money. The people at the top are going to make money too, that created this system. And they're saying you have to get this thing when you are at this rank. And it's like, how is it possible that you can mandate that you pay for something like where I work, where you work? You're not told you have to buy this training, you have to join this to keep working here. That's not part of what I guess, ethical business does.
Yeah, no, certainly. Yeah, I can't imagine, or I must imagine, that the person that they brought into that system, who is now teaching something a little bit different, I'm sure he must have incredible business insight to offer people. Like, it must be earth-shattering in terms of the benefit people receive. So
it seems to be more kind of like more mindset and mind, body, spirit type thing of taking care of the whole person. So it seems like they brought in one of these guru types to kind of like fill in that hole. But it's still one of those things to keep people in the churn, keep people in the belief, keep people in the bubble, so that they keep on kicking that can.
Yeah. No, certainly. And I mean, it's like what we first started with, right? When you just need to give people enough information for them to be comfortable with it. You take a very complicated situation that people are in, and how can I like really simplify it? Like, oh, you just need to follow these simple steps, fill out this certain worksheet, wake up every morning at 6 a.m. and call 10 of your favorite contacts or the people on your chicken list. Like create this very simplified nature to how the world works, and people are going to be more drawn to adopt that. I've worked, not worked, I shouldn't say that, but I have been adjacent to and helped supported people find mental health services. And I know that there's this entire realm and support system out there for people that are looking for those answers. And I've attended conferences. I held the conference for student leaders on these types of things in order to give them the tools in order to help this. And like I went through a period in my anti-MLM journey of thinking like, am I these people? Like, was I this kind of person who was giving people not necessarily false hope, but certainly something that perhaps isn't going to make a big difference in their life? But number one, I wasn't really making the individuals pay. Like the conference was helped pay for it by the institution, the university that was there. And it was primarily networking in terms of students that were having trouble running their floor in residence and realizing that, hey, it's not just the people within my university that have those difficulties, it's these other people in other universities that are also having that. So building that interconnected university system so students didn't feel alone, and that kind of thing. Like there were intentional reasons for having these systems at play so people could do their work better. But within these MLM systems, you have that the people are familiar with. But then in addition to that, you also have like, okay, well, go and find other people to come and do this as well. And I'm like, I never had that. That was not something that was an aspect of what I needed to do. So.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I myself, I think, okay, I'm putting together this content and because I'm to be informative, to help people. So hopefully that, you know, it can save someone from what I've gone through what so many other people have gone through. And it's like, oh my gosh, am I doing anything that, you know, could be misconstrued? But, you know, and they come at me. There's several different groups of them come at me because I dare have a Patreon, which is so completely different. You know what you're getting each month, you know, to join Patreon, you know, somebody, and people have been patrons for artists for hundreds of years. It's completely different, but they get so annoyed that I dare have that. It's like, it's different. And
Yeah.
they can't seem to like get it in their heads. But there is a part of me that's like, I never want anybody to put me on a pedestal and look at me like I'm some guru over something. I don't want to be your guru. I want you to go out and do your own research. I want to open your eyes or help maybe lift the veil a little bit so that maybe you will start to ask questions and not just accept what you've been given and think that what you've been given is the end all be all and completely factual. Start looking at what other people are saying and why could they possibly be saying it.
Yeah. It's important you bring up Patreon because, I mean, full disclosure, I'm also a patron to you. And I think that I'm not doing it because you're promising me anything in return. I'm doing it because I realize that in order to do all of this research and be able to produce the content that you're doing, that requires a lot of time and effort. And I think that it's a lot of time and effort that goes unrewarded. And I understand that, like, if you decided to pack up tomorrow and not do this, right, I won't get this content, but it's not like I'm out of income for the future. It's not like it's going to drastically change the reality of my life. And you will not continue to be drawing money each month from that Patreon, right? It's this relationship that we have as a patron and as a content producer, that I support all the work that you're putting into the content that you're producing, and I appreciate when it comes out, but there's no, like, if you don't put out your content on a Wednesday, I'm not calling you and saying like, hey, like I've paid you this money this month. Where is this content? That's not the relationship that you have in this. But within MLM, if you're not getting that product that you ordered, like, that's a serious problem. The past few months, you've seen people complaining on Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms about not getting their orders, right? This is a different relationship that people have within their MLM system completely. So if people are identifying Patreon just because you're getting money from people that support you, I mean, they're supporting you because you're producing content that they agree with, right? I don't buy into Amway thinking that I support Amway. I'm buying into Amway because like I would have bought it because I thought that I cared about this person and thinking that I was helping, when in reality I'm not really helping. I'm possibly sandwiching this person into a deeper crevice that they're going to have to dig themselves out of several months from now. And
Right.
I wanted to connect this thread to like the fact that you've been doing all this work and you get these attacks when it comes to Patreon. There's another gentleman who kind of started in the space back in, I think it was 2013 that he launched his channel. Have you heard of Ethan Vanderbilt? I think we've talked.
Yeah, Ethan, often that's somewhere where I go and I get content from, because I'm able to, and then I, make it my own. I will link, because I try to always put my sources, and maybe I'm not always successful, but my intent is to be like, okay, these are the sources that I use for whatever content it is I'm creating. I don't cite it like, Chicago reference style or anything. It's like, here's the link,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that fancy, but Ethan is absolutely amazing. And I love to be able to draw, whether it is from his blog or whether it's from his YouTube channel, because I feel confident that his analysis is spot on. And so, yeah, I mean, he's someone I have so much respect for, and I'm so grateful that his content is available for someone like me. Because, I've been saying this to people lately. Yesterday, I had a conversation with the anti-bot, and she was like, because, she was asking me about my video with Robert Fitzpatrick, and then I was talking about, she was like, oh my gosh, all these people. How do you know these people? And like Doug Brooks, David Breyer, people that you and I both know. And I'm like, well, I just did what I did when I first graduated with my degree in instructional design. I just emailed or called. I just reached out to people because I knew when I stepped into this space, and Ethan is one of them, I would have to stand on the shoulders of giants, because, there were people before me, and I am really new to this space. I've got to rely on people who have been there, done that, so that I can continue to spread the word and use their research as a jumping off point, so to speak. So to answer your question, that was a long answer. Yes.
No, it was a good one.
Yes, I know Ethan.
Good. Yeah. I mean, the first time that I looked up an organization, I think I talked a little bit about my story last time, but Market America was the organization that I sort of got thrust into the MLM movement and realized, like, this is not there's something wrong with this situation. Now, I had approached it because I had originally heard of the airplane game, and I knew that system was cracked down on. But it's like, there's so many similarities to what's going on here, and that's not just my opinion. Like, you listen to MLM lawyers, and they're, anytime that they go on pro MLM programs, they're constantly having to sort of explain, like, yeah, it looks a lot like this. It's like there's a reason why people continue to attribute it with the same thing, and they defend their way out of it. But all that is to say that first time that I looked up this company, it drew me through Ethan Vanderbilt's blog, and that was sort of my first realization, like, oh, this other company is also there, and this other company that I've heard of is also there, and they're all using this similar system. As I look at the compensation plan that he's somewhat reviewed on his website, and then going to check it myself, because as a proper sort of blogging researcher, he posts his links. And what I've been doing recently as well is I've sort of been looking at his work, because I've noticed that he's taken a step back as there's been this rise in YouTuber content. I've noticed that Ethan Vanderbilt's sort of role within this space has sort of been to allow the area of people who have experienced the MLM situation to then sort of step up and be like, this is the experience that I've had. And it's not just my experience, it's this other company that I've talked to, it's this other person that I'm bringing on my channel that's also sharing about that experience, right? It's sort of this more personalized approach, but we're able to do that. And I think, as you just said, we're able to do that because he's made a lot of this content available on his website, right? It's a point of, it's a gateway, it's a point of contact for us to sort of realize that, oh, there's information out there, and this can be a starting place for many people. So I'm tremendously appreciative of the work that he's done, and I think his situation speaks to a number of people who have worked within this anti-MLM space, say prior to a year and a half to 2 years ago, right? That I think many of them have had to step out of it because it's so exhausting. Like it's something that you feel, and you've said it already. I believe it was on this call that we've been doing, but there's just no end to the number of companies that are there. But it's the fact that you have this YouTube channel that people are going to be able to access years and years after this. And it's the idea that we're going to start a couple Google Docs, or you have your index cards, right? And those are going to be things that if I'm stepping away from this, that I am going to be able to sort of help people get the ball rolling from there. And I'm nowhere near stepping away from it, but I'm just sort of realizing the stress and weight that this kind of work puts on you. Because I've looked at some of the comments that he's gotten, and they're not all that different from the comments that we're getting today, right? Back in 2013, 2015, he's getting these attacks of like, oh, well, you're with this wealthy affiliate group, like you're making money too, you're trying to drive traffic to your blog, you don't actually have any problems with MLM, you're just trying to create problems just so you can get money from people who just didn't make it in this business because it's hard and it's a business and that's just life. Like so much of what's being said as an attack on the anti-MLM content producer has been there. Like it's copy and paste from that situation, just sort of subbed in with the like Patreon of today.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I get crap about AdSense too. It's like, you're making money off of these videos. It's like, well, yeah, I got 1,000 subs, and I mean, I get a little tiny, because again, I'm a tiny little content creator. I don't even have 4,000 subs as of this recording. My videos don't get tens of thousands of views. So the ratio of what I make versus a larger platform, I mean, it's really, it you know, it can fit in, and it's a tiny fraction, but getting that AdSense is like, okay, that helps me get equipment. It helps me, you know, save up to get other equipment. It's kind of a nice little bonus of like, okay, that's helping me that's fueling me to keep going, because it is exhausting. I mean, the amount of research and stuff that I read and I go through and then try to put it all together so that I'm creating a narrative that makes sense. And then, oh my gosh, I mean, recording it, not only writing the script, recording it, the number of takes that I have to do on something, the editing process, adding in the B-roll, then it has to render, then it has to upload. I mean, there's so many different steps to it that those people don't take into account of any of that. And you are someone, you realize how much work I'm doing, and that's why I'm so grateful that people like you have chosen to, you know, subscribe to my Patreon. You know, I have not been advertising that during this time because I just didn't feel that was right, because people have, you know, they're struggling, and I don't want to be like, hey, you got to do my pay. No, you know, no. But having the AdSense, having the Patreon, it is helpful because it's exhausting. And it's exhausting because I want to be able to cover all the things people mention to me, and I can't, because I'm not doing this full time. I'm one person. But that's why I think it's so important that, you know, I have friends like you in the anti-MLM space, you know, that are MLM critics, and that we're all doing what we can in the way that we do it to speak out against this. And I'm very grateful that, you know, I do know people, because as more people speak out, then we have the opportunity for the word to, you know, spread more. because they can't shut us all down in terms of the people that come after us. There are going to be people that as soon as they get criticized, they're going to cut and run because they can't handle it. And not saying that I'm so fabulous because I'm still doing it even though people come at me, because I'm just doing it out of my passion for it, my concern for humanity, I guess is what you could say. And I think you feel that as excuse me, I feel that as well, is that it's a concern that we have that people continue to be roped into this system, which appears so simple. And that's what always gets me. It looks so simple, but the reality of actually doing those simple steps, it's not what they tell you it's going to be. It never is. But you get programmed to believe that it will lead to the freedom that they're telling you that it has, that it is the pathway to.
Right. And the reality, so connected to that idea, like that simplicity, like if you find the people, word of mouth advertising is the most effective form of advertising you can have in business, right? But within MLM, you have this sort of incentive to, well, I'm going to talk about the fact that this restaurant is the most incredible ravioli in the world. It's stuffed with like the most succulent truffles and whatever, I don't know. I've had so many international food experiences, it's hard for me to sometimes narrow in on the sort of pop culture food of the moment. But the point is that I twist the truth just a little bit within that, and that experience you're having of, I've lost my train of thought. the little bit of information that you put in. Oh no.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. It's a little bit after midnight for me. With the time shift, I'm surprised that I've been able to hold it somewhat together.
we can wrap up soon because I know it's late. I know it's late for you and everything.
I thank you for that. I did want to touch just briefly on the fact that I'm really appreciate the work that you're doing. And every day it seems like I'm seeing a new small YouTube content creator pop up on YouTube. And it seems to be that, yes, there's a reality that someone might get that sort of first sort of, I don't like you, why are you on here? Like, what are you doing? You're just a failure. You didn't work hard enough in this business. You just need to give it up. But I think the fact that that person has your videos that might have got them into YouTube, or has Monica's videos that she's watched, or Savannah's, or Kiki Chanel, like the fact that those YouTube videos are on this platform, that person is going to feel more connected to, no, I need to be here. I need to share my story. It's important that someone who comes after me doesn't just have that content to digest, but they can see that, oh, there's 8 videos about this, or there's 1,200 videos about this, right, that are telling the same story. And I think that this is connected to a project that we're working on together with your survey, the post involvement survey. Would you like to share just a little bit about what's going on with that? I
haven't looked at it in months. I mean, I think you
I
probably have,
the situation for it, but.
It's like, because I've been down such a rabbit hole, and to be perfectly honest, I have relied on you to remind me about it, because I'm like, it's like there's only so many balls I can have juggling at one time.
Yeah. With that, I would just say that the fact that these people keep popping up every, I would put it at a week. It seems like there are new videos, whether it be just a channel that releases one video that just talks about the fact that, hey, I've had this experience. I want to make sure that other people are at least aware that when they're making the decision to join this company, that this is a reality that you might face with it, right? You don't really get the characterization when you're signing up for this company of the direction it could go in. Instead, the likely more inevitable outcome that it could go in. You typically get sort of presented the idealized kind of 1% outcome, if it is that 1%. We have the statistics available to us to represent that our point is that it's less than 1% are actually getting the lifetime of income that's going to support them for the rest of eternity and their family's eternity, which we don't have the results from that yet. But having those voices on YouTube, and then also having your survey available for those who don't have the means of creating these videos, but are interested in sharing their experience within the MLM. Because I think it's Robert Fitzpatrick who pushes on this point, is the fact that, yes, the MLM movement, the companies that are starting up within this space, it's more and more all the time. Every year there's more companies that are starting up. Yes, a couple collapse, but like, it seems like the mini heads of Hydra, every time you're cutting one off, there's 3 more popping up. But at the same time, every distributor that's joining an MLM, it's almost as if 2 or 3 are falling out. And if we can create the space and sort of awareness that, like, there's reasons for why you're falling out of this. It's not you. You need to understand that you are not to blame in this. And yes, there's going to be critics within that press on that and say that there, you can look to someone to try to fill that void and make you feel less guilty about failing, but in actuality, it is you failing. There's going to be those people, and I can't go at them and say, like, you need to understand that how this system works. What I'm trying to say is that those people are going to have this space because of the wealth of new content that's available, that they're either, one, not going to be afraid when that first attack comes at them and they're going to press on, or 2, they're going to be willing to share their story and realize that they're not alone in sharing this experience. And now they have a means of being able to share it in a space that isn't just a Reddit thread, or it's not just something that sort of sits on there. Because the problem with those platforms is that it gets buried and years ago. And unless you go searching for, like, I want to know someone who in Amway that had a boyfriend that quit Amway and they were stuck in, right? You can sort of find those sort of niche qualities, but it doesn't really represent a whole picture. And what we need is a collection of stories that tell a narrative that sort of speak to the volumes of the pain and suffering that comes not only in the immediate aftermath of these companies, but like the long-term impact of them as well. So.
Yeah, there is definitely a long-term psychological impact, and that's something that I try to bring up because, you know, there's not any therapist for, you know, those of us who've been in MLM. And I do think that over time, when, especially people who have gone from one to another, to another, to another, or they've stayed in one for a long time, you don't realize how it's eroding your personhood and when you walk away, you're carrying that damage with you. And so many people have no idea. And I recognize that in things that I see, even among activists. It's like, that looks a little bit, you know, maybe you could tone that down a bit, because I go back to, you know, you draw more flies with honey than you do vinegar, sort of a thing. But I did also want to address, because I think you brought up a very good point about all these other channels, you know, like these small creators or doing one video, maybe they were starting a channel on anti-MLM, doesn't matter. But there was a time on YouTube, and I'll just use Beachbody since that's what I know, when you would look up Beachbody stuff, and it's all basically pro Beachbody. And you might see why I quit Beachbody. But then it would be like, and I joined such and such because this is such a better opportunity. But now you're seeing why I quit Beachbody and why multi-level marketing is horrible. So there's been a shift. And it's great that I think that more of these stories are coming out and more people are willing to step up, because not only will people who, if they put in, oh, I don't know, it works, LuLaRoe, into, you know, to search on YouTube, that there's this option, like, you know what, there's going to be things that are like, everything's great. And then there's going to be videos that are like, you better not, you should rethink this because there are some issues, there's some problems. So I think that it's going to help balance, like what you were talking about earlier, the fact that there is this content out there, and I think more and more will be created. And I think that's one reason for me personally why I don't want to stop, is that I want to make sure that there's a flood of information, because then if just one person sees that and they go, maybe I shouldn't join Ring Bombs, maybe I shouldn't join Vantel Pearls, maybe I shouldn't join LuLaRoe. Yeah. That is helpful, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, or even just, I need to look a little bit more into this, right? I can't just rely on the opinion of this friend that I trust.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately, I think that's the biggest impact that the anti-MLM content producer aspect of this whole community, that's the major contribution that they're having. So yeah, I would say that I'm thankful for that, and I hope that for those that are still concerned or like me not going to start their own YouTube channel, they find your survey, because that data is going to ultimately help to give better representation to that long-term impact, because we don't have a lot of evidence to that.
Yeah.
In a sort of
Well, I'll put a link
space.
to it in the description, because I also put this out as an audio podcast. So it will be on YouTube and will be in my Anchor description as well, so that if people are so inclined, they can take the time. Now, I will say it's not a short 10-question survey. It is in depth and detailed, and it's intentional in terms of it. Excuse me. Is it perfect? Probably not. What survey is. But it's probably a better instrument than what we have for like anything that what's existing right now. And it's just a matter of being able to collect that data and to extrapolate from it what is really going on beyond what direct sellers publishes, beyond what the income disclosure statements say. We need something more.
Yeah, no, definitely. And taking it can be sort of reflective. It helps you back of what's going on. So
absolutely.
Not that I'm making any sort of product claims with the benefits our survey can provide people, but it's useful in that way. So I'll end things there, and thank you so much for having me on again.
Well, thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate it. As always, it's such a pleasure to speak to Dave. I always value his insight when it comes to, criticizing multi-level marketing and his activism in the anti-MLM, sphere. And like so many things in this world, when you believe there is an injustice, and in my opinion, I believe multi-level marketing does not provide anything that's a good business opportunity, because it relies on endless chain of recruitment. The products are way overpriced, and the structure is just overall problematic. If we believe that there is something wrong in the world, it is up to us to speak out so that we can share our views and our message and stories about why we believe things are problematic. And remember, change starts now.